Okay.
You can actually probably come in on the mic a little bit, and if you do that, we might want to drop
All right.
the level just a tad.
All right.
Are we coming in right after this? All right. Yeah. So,
Cool.
all right. Awesome. Well, hello and welcome everybody. This is episode 5 of Breathing Room. I'm your host, Rob Hlavaty, and I'm joined here in the studio today by Adi the Monk.
Hey, hey.
Adi, thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you.
Really excited to be here with you today. This is the first time we've gotten to really sit down and chat face to face, but I've seen you out playing before, and Adi's an incredible blues, funk, jazz kind of fusion guitar player. That's at least how I'm familiar with you. I know you play some other instruments, and you have quite a few other hobbies as well that we can certainly dive into.
Hey, yeah.
And talk a little bit about today.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
So just for your sake, Adi, just a little bit about what Breathing Room is really all about and what the intent of this show is really to have on local creatives, artists, and really even just local human beings and be able to provide some space or a platform for people to be able to share, number one, what it is that they create and that they're proud of. And I think number two, share their experiences, which everyone has unique life experiences that have gotten them to this point, and some of them are not always positive, right? There are a lot of things that I think we need to struggle through and endure the pain from in life to really grow and get to that next level. And I found it's really important to talk about those things and own them and have them be part of us and have them be something we can talk about in a way that feels like we can be proud of them, proud that we've overcome them, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense.
So the real primary driver for me is about 2 years ago, my father committed suicide. That's something I've shared on most shows. It comes up at some point. It's just something that's really kind of always on my mind.
I've heard.
And it's been something that has really been a driving factor for me wanting to have these conversations, wanting to connect with people in a deeper way to understand and have empathy for just what goes into people's creative processes.
Right, I feel you.
Yeah. So that's been a big just kind of starter for the show. That's how we've gotten to this point. Have had a lot of fun doing this so far. We've had on a number of different people, including Abby the Spoon Lady and Taso McDonald and Shell Tonic. Also had Nate Robinson on. So it's been a great variety so far, and people have shared a lot of their music, which has been great for me. It's something that I really like to see. We have a blooming music scene here, and there are just, I think, more talented people than you can really keep up with.
For sure.
So it's good to be connected with those people and see what it is that they have to share.
Oh, yeah.
So before we get started, Adi, I want to there's something that we've done at the beginning of most episodes here, which is take about 10 seconds of intentional silence. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable and just settle into the room and get ready to start the show. If there's anything that comes up for you while you're sitting there, maybe that can be one of the first things we jump to as we start the conversation. So with that said,
Let's do it.
Adi and those listening, just let's take 10 seconds here, create some space, and focus on our breath. All right. Feels good. I always want to go longer when we do that. I wouldn't mind 10 minutes of silence. That would be fun. That's a good place to start with something we talked a little bit about, is your experience with meditation. And selfishly, I think that's where I'd like to start the conversation. I'm pretty new into meditating myself. I've been doing it for about 2.5 years on and off. Have tried some different variations and found things that have really worked for me and some things that really don't work for me as much. So just curious to hear a little bit about what meditation has looked like for you, and how you've gotten started and how you've continued to incorporate it in your life and what that looks like.
Well, if you just think of meditation as contemplation, prayer, contemplation, and introspection, which is, essentially how I approach it and define it, meditation.
Right.
If you just think of it in that way, it's something that's intrinsic to the to the soul. It's something that's always there within all of us. And I always think of meditation that way. It's not an elite activity that we learn how to practice, and that's only for a few people to practice.
Absolutely.
It means awareness of the self, contemplation of the higher self or the supreme self, and prayer, introspection. So those things are always there. So in that sense, based on that definition, I would say, depending on how introspective or contemplative we are, we're always meditating from the earliest of ages.
Right. And even if we're not setting out to specifically meditate, I think you're saying that there are times where we may be in a meditative state where we're deeply thinking about something that we've done or something that we've said. And maybe that's kind of an underlying voice that's always there in some capacity. And I think when we take the time to meditate, we give the time and space for that voice to be in the driver's seat, and we get to stand back and see where it goes. We get to see where does our mind go when we don't control it, and when we just let it run, run free, we can see the places that it goes and try to label those places and understand the emotions or thoughts that are helping to drive them, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
But another important thing to always consider is that, well, there are different levels of understanding the truth, obviously, and there are different qualities of meditation, different levels of meditation.
Right.
So, for example, a moment of meditation on the form or name of the Supreme Person may be vastly superior to thousands of years of meditation on, say, a candle or the breath.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's meditating, aren't they? Infant is meditating on the mother and on the bottle. Vultures in the sky are meditating on carcass and how to get their carcass for the day. That's a meditation. It might not be a very high-level meditation.
Right.
So if we're sincere about functioning on the highest level, it's not really the highest, it's the original or purest level. If we're interested in the most original or the most pure level of activity, then we should be looking for that highest or most pure type of meditation.
And what are some ways that help you achieve that? I know you talked about focusing on the breath or focusing on a candle. I know there are forms of guided meditation out there. There is imagery where you close your eyes and you think of a place that brings you a lot of peace and comfort, or you think of a beach or a nice sunset. What are some of the methods that have been most effective for you to achieve that highest state?
Well, we can talk about what the higher types of meditation are, but the important thing first is to distinguish between the physical body, the gross physical body, the subtle material body, and the self, the soul.
Right.
Because if we can't distinguish between ourselves and our mind and our intelligence and our ego, and if we can't distinguish between ourself and this body, then our meditation is very limited.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like a mechanical practice or a technique, the scripturally speaking, according to the Vedas, the most highly recommended process for self-realization in this age is meditation on or chanting of the holy names of the Supreme Person or the holy names of God. And depending on your tradition, your geographic location, or what tradition you might come in, you will most certainly have different names for God. They're more numerous than our names for the sun. There are thousands and thousands of names for God. But chanting and meditating on the transcendental sound vibration, we can put it that way as well. Generally, the highest transcendental sound vibrations are names of the Supreme Lord or his associates, like that. Mantra. Man means mind, and tra means to deliver. So mantra is not just a slogan or a motto that we live by, but it's actually a sound vibration that elevates the consciousness just through contact with it. For example, the most highly recommended mantra for the age that we live in is the Mahamantra, which is 16 names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's 16 names, and you can meditate on that. To simplify it, like when we did our 10 seconds of silent meditation, you may just meditate on the breath, but for me, if I meditate silently like that, what immediately springs to mind is the syllable Om. And that's a type of mantra meditation, simply meditating on the syllable Om, which you don't really have to know much about it. It's clearly a universal vibration.
Right. And when you're meditating on Om, is it something that you're consciously thinking, or you're making that vibration intentionally?
You may consciously think of it in the beginning, but as you become accustomed to the principle or the omnipresence of Om, the vibration, then it's more like you're just becoming aware of it.
Right.
You just become aware of it. And, you know, because it's there and it's primordial, it's, you could say everything is created from sound vibration, and that sound vibration is the syllable Om. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras.
Okay.
So that syllable Om, just to feel it, to be aware of it, and to feel it is enough. You could vocalize it, but whether you vocalize it or not, it's there, and you can be aware of it and meditate upon it.
Absolutely. That's great. That's very insightful.
Yeah.
So something else I wanted to talk about, and it's slightly related, is your experiences with Vaishnavism, which Vaishnava is a branch or a sector of Hinduism. Is that right?
You could describe it that way.
Okay.
I would describe it differently, but
sure.
But that would be a scholarly or academic way to maybe categorize it. Yeah.
Yeah. How would you characterize it?
That Vaishnavism is based on adherence to and reverence of the Vedas in their original form, and that it's not a branch, but that it's based on direct and literal interpretation of the Vedas.
Okay.
So you could call that fundamental. Some people have described it like that.
Sure.
But that's the reason we make that distinction is because Hinduism is a very large umbrella that encompasses a lot of different practices that are guided by different scriptures and different teachers and different ideologies. So I mean, there's just that doesn't really give you a very specific understanding of what the practice is.
Sure, I still think that helps, though. That kind of helps reel it in a little bit.
It does. It helps you to give an idea. That's why I say from an academic point of view, you can put it in that category.
Right.
I guess you could consider Vaishnavism a Hindu sect, but we consider Vaishnavism as eternal devotional service to the Supreme Person. So it's not a sectarian principle.
Yeah.
In other words, if someone is sincerely practicing Christianity with devotion to the Supreme Creator, and all of their activities are involved with that, that's Bhakti Yoga, and it's a type of, falling under the Vaishnav line. But it's not from India. It's not Hindu.
Right.
Another term that we use is Sanatan Dharma. Like we're familiar with the term Dharma. Dharma means nature, or the duty or the nature of a thing. Sanatan meaning eternal. So when we say Sanatan Dharma, we mean the eternal nature of a thing, or the eternal occupational duty of us as individuals.
Okay.
And you could also say that that's the one eternal true religion. You see what I mean? And that's not something that's sectarian, or that any one particular group or nationality can lay claim to. It's an eternal principle, devotional service.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for clarifying on that. When did you start practicing Vaishnavism? Is that something you practiced when you were living overseas?
I I started learning about Vedic culture and Vaishnavism when I was about 16 or 17, and I was living in Illinois. But
Okay.
I'd gotten Bhagavad Gita and started studying Bhagavad Gita and related books and scriptures, so like that. And I started really trying to practice that around the age of 17.
Okay. Yeah. And something that might be helpful, I don't think I gave you really an opportunity at the top of the show, but is there anything that would be helpful for listeners or viewers to know about you going into this conversation? Is there any little elevator speech you have prepped? Anything that's helpful for people to know about you?
No, not really. I don't have any sort of formal introduction or
Yeah.
speech for myself like that. I tend to introduce myself and speak for myself with my guitar. So most of you that see me out and about in public, just see me speaking with my guitar,
Yep.
unless you, chat with me in between sets or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm a pretty friendly guy, and I don't go around talking about Vedic scriptures and Sanatan Dharma all the time, but when the subject comes up, I find it to be the most important type of discussion. So
Sure.
when the opportunity arises to talk about such things, then I'm all about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
But I could talk about Miles Davis. We talk about my guitar.
Yeah.
Talk about being in the local forest where waterfalls and caves and such are so abundant,
Yeah.
or the different countries of the world. That I've seen and that may influence my music. One thing that's along the lines of what the theme of your show that you might not even know about is, and I'm definitely into talking about it, is the loss of my brother, and who was 14 months older than me, and the connection for me personally and deeply with my brother in music.
Yeah.
We were musicians together from from the start. Picked up the ukuleles together. Started poking around at the keyboard together. Um, got guitars at the same time. Started
Yeah.
playing guitars together. So, um, I that's my brother Carl, 14 months older than me. We grew up in Illinois, almost like twins because we were. I don't know if you should say inseparable, but not separated for
Right.
for so
Always
many
together.
years. Yes, we shared the same room. He always slept above me or something like that.
Yeah.
And so when we got into everything together, we got into baseball together, we got into this together, that together. So when it came time to get into music, guitars and such, we got into that together. And I don't think I would have gotten into it the way that I did if it weren't for him. I probably wouldn't have gotten into it as enthusiastically or
Right. Right.
aggressively as I did, because he was, as far as picking up gear, checking out gear, things like that, he was always a lot more enthusiastic with it, or like aggressive with it, with getting things.
Right.
But anyway, we learned how to play together, but we went separate ways, or I went my own way when I hit the age of 17, 18, went off and became a monk.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd never played together after that. But I'm just saying, when I look at this equipment, like when I look at my guitar or I look at any of this musical equipment, it I just see my brother in it.
Yeah.
There's a connection there.
Yeah. I know what you mean, and I can relate to that. A lot of my earliest music gear was gotten for me by my dad.
Hmm.
So when I look at that Fender Strat that's sitting there at the house,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I can think of, is
Oh
him
yeah.
getting it for me and the love that comes through that. And that's a gift that I think keeps on giving when you have something like that you can relate to somebody and remember them through music.
Right.
How old were you when you lost your brother?
Well, I think he was 32 and I was 31.
Yeah.
I'm 40. I'm going to be 44 in March. So it's been a little while.
Yeah.
Um,
What was the experience of losing him like? Where were you at that time in your life? Did you live locally, or did you have to deal with that from afar?
Well, I was in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in the Philippines for 5 years, '03 to '08. My mom's from there. She's over there right now.
Okay.
Um, my wife is from there. My first daughter was born there. Second daughter born here in Asheville.
Okay.
But so I was living over in the Philippines, and he had, fortunately, he came over to the Philippines, and I guess it was '07, and I was able to spend a good solid week with him while he was over there. And I hadn't really been around my brother or spent time with him for years and years.
Right.
Honestly, because I'd been a monk and had been all over the world. It'd been about over 10 years since I'd even been around him
Wow.
very much.
Yeah.
But it was nice that we were able to spend time together and do some of the things that we enjoyed doing. I found it frustrating that, because for me, I'm pretty enthusiastic about things that I love doing in this world.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of interests and I enjoy pursuing them. I think that's could be clear to anybody that observes like how I live my life. I mean,
Right.
the hardest thing for me to do is to decide which one of these awesome things I want to pursue. But my brother wasn't feeling that. He was feeling kind of bitter, kind of like he didn't have anything that he wanted to fulfill or wanted to pursue or chase. So
Mm-hmm.
and I know that very well because I spent hours with him bouncing things off of him. Well, why don't you try this? No, I've already tried that. Have you tried this? Yeah, I've already tried that. It didn't go so well for me. Why don't you go here? What am I going to do there? Why don't you stay here? What am I going to do here? So hard for me to relate to and hard for me to accept.
Sure.
That was probably the most frustrating part of it. Then he went back to he came back to the States. He actually left his body in a trailer in Alabama. That's where he passed away. And then he was cremated, and my sister brought his ashes to the Philippines.
Okay.
You know, their ashes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what was your experience like when you had that time to reconnect with him? Were you able to rekindle at all that love that you both had for music, or any of the other things that you shared growing up, being inseparable?
Yeah, we didn't try to play music together,
Yeah.
but one of the like he left a lot of CDs with me and turned me on to a lot of music just in that short period of time that he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the first things that we did was he popped in this old Beastie Boys documentary. I can't remember what it's called, but they passed out high 8 cameras to all the crowd in Madison Square Garden, and then they had edited all the film that the crowd shot, and that's how they made it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a really cool Beastie Boys DVD that was out, and this is like 10, 15 years ago.
Right. I haven't seen that one. That sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, I'll find out what it's called.
Cool.
But yeah, so we did that
Yeah.
and just hung out and talked a lot, caught up a lot. It's funny though because me and my brother would get hands on quite a bit. You know, we used to scuffle and stuff like that. Nothing unusual for brothers, but
Right.
it's just funny how that's kind of like embedded it's woven into the very fabric of our relationship.
Right.
And so when I was with him as grown men, and now I'm like 31 and he's 32, we went hands on again, meaning physically scuffled a couple times.
Really?
And I'm like, what is this? I don't do this with people. You know what I mean? He grabbed my collar one night. He grabbed my collar over, it was a disagreement about nothing.
Oh, man.
It's like, where is this coming from? He grabbed my collar. I stood up, knocked his hand off my collar, and I just kind of, squared up against him. He's like, oh, it's going to be like that, huh? I was like, whoa. I was like,
Only with your brother could that happen.
I was like, yo. And I said it. It's like, I'm not 12 anymore,
Right.
Carl. You know? Like,
Right.
it's not going to go down like this. Yeah. But yeah, that's a little about my brother Carl. He doesn't have any songs recorded or released, but we made our first albums together.
Yeah.
We made cassette tapes, drew up little album covers.
Ah, that's cool.
Stuff like that.
What'd you draw on them?
Oh, well, I mean, we had so many. I remember the first band that we had together was called Ace of Spades.
Okay.
That was his
Some
idea.
badass name.
He was a badass. He was a badass dude. He had this little fedora, and he had an Ace of Spades, the card of death. He kept that in the band of his fedora.
Oh,
And he
nice.
was like 10. But yeah, so he was always into heavier music, and his friends were too. So
Yeah.
they got really into the hardest and darkest metal that they could come up with at the time.
Right.
And I was running with that for a little while, and then I discovered the blues. And when I discovered the blues, then it started to change everything.
Yeah. How old were you when you discovered the blues?
I mean, when I really discovered it
Yeah.
in my heart and got into vibing with it, I guess I was probably 14. I think I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
Yep.
And who was it that turned you on to it? Was there a particular artist or somebody that just grabbed your ear?
I got to give credit that I don't know if I would have gotten into the whole world of blues if it wasn't for Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
But, from Jimi Hendrix, I got into Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Willie Dixon, John Lee Hooker, Robert Johnson, and those 5 names that just shot off the top of my head. Those were the biggest ones that affect. And then Hubert Sumlin, who played guitar for Howlin' Wolf, he became like my guitar hero or guitar idol there through a lot of my teenage years.
Yeah.
A lot of time just going through their tapes, and that was my main connection initially with blues music, is alone in the bedroom with the tape player, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf tapes, playing along.
Cool. And at what age did you start playing the guitar?
Oh, I started playing guitar way before that.
Okay.
I mean, we started picking up guitars. We had these little ukuleles around the house from the Philippines. They're coconut shell.
Yeah.
My brother ended up. I had one with a single coconut shell. My brother had one like that.
Yeah.
My sister had one with 3 coconuts. That was made with 3 coconuts. Yeah. My brother ended up breaking one of those over my leg one time. But
God.
that was like the first instrument. Yeah, it left a bruise for like a couple months.
I'm sure.
Chased me around the house and broke that thing over my leg. I told you. But my mom always had a guitar, like a classical nylon string guitar.
Uh-huh.
And we always had a piano or a keyboard in the house. She usually have a piano. So we started. I was picking up guitars early. I think I started actually learning stuff properly when I was 9, maybe.
Okay.
I got my first electric guitar when I was, I think, 9 or 10. And I had already been taking lessons for a little while at the time.
Nice.
The lessons didn't go very long or very far or very deep. They just got us started.
Yeah. Did you find that at that age you were able to keep your interest in something like a lesson, or was that not fun to you?
No, we were into the lessons. I don't know what it was fun to us, but at just one point he just said that was all he really had that he wanted to show us. I don't know if we weren't learning at the rate that he wanted us to be learning or what exactly it was, but he actually kind of terminated the lessons at one point. So we were like, okay, that's cool. We didn't stop playing. We didn't stop learning.
Right.
And like some of the stuff that he gave me, like he gave me pentatonic scales, basic blues scales on a worksheet. And I couldn't make any sense of it when I was in his class, but I remember finding that in my closet several years later. And then, that just revolutionized my whole guitar playing world right there.
Yeah. It all clicked for you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, dude was trying to tell this to me.
Yeah.
Several years ago, but I wasn't ready for it.
That was my experience with guitar lessons when I was 12 or 13 years old. I would go, he would give me a scale to work on and a song that I would request. He would teach me how to play a song all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'd focus maybe 95% of the attention. It's like, I want to get this song down. This scale thing's not fun. I don't want to do that. But, so what was your primary way of learning material? If it wasn't lessons at a young age, was it just playing along with some of the tapes that you were listening to?
Yeah, playing along with music that we were listening to, that we wanted to, learning music or bits of music that we wanted to learn. I just learned a lot from my brother and from his friends. Like they would be writing songs, let's say like going back to the time we were maybe like 11, 12 years old. They were writing a lot of songs. So I would learn the songs that they were writing and like learn new chords like that. Kind of a group effort.
That's
And
cool.
a lot of it wasn't a lot of sitting around by myself. I spent a lot of time by myself with the guitar,
Yeah.
and I was learning, but it wasn't structured. It's picking around, learning about tones. I remember just sitting on my bed a lot, holding the Stratocaster up to my ear. I did that a lot as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
just to hear the tones like directly within the wood.
Right.
Hold it, just put it up to your ear. It's so nice. And I probably played more like that than I did through an amplifier.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's an intimate way of playing.
One early lesson that I got with the guitar. I was just thinking about this the other day. My first guitar was a full size like Stratocaster
Uh-huh.
copy. I remember sitting on my bed with that thing and banging the top of my guitar with my big buck tooth,
Oh,
and putting
man.
like it was a fairly new guitar, and putting like this gash in the top of my guitar, like this big buck tooth gash in the
Oh,
top.
man.
And I remember lamenting about that and being like, oh, oh shucks, I just put a gash in my beautiful guitar. I remember my brother saying, it's not. He said, they're tools. It's not a piece of jewelry, man. So it's like, I know, I started looking at the stuff differently
Yeah.
after that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to worship the tool.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's like a lesson that I got after my dad got me the Strat for Christmas, back when I was probably, I don't know, 17, 16 years old. I was using the whammy bar, and it cracked the lacquer on the guitar.
ouch.
And it was like the second day that I had it, and I was really upset, and I showed him, and his response was, it's not going in a museum. This thing's to play. It's going to get
Yeah.
beat up a little bit.
Right.
And that's, when I kind of took a different look at it as well. Because you want, it's your baby. You want it to be in good shape, and you want it to be protected, but things are going to happen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We can only protect them so much.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the really old tunes that you would work on with your brother and your older and some of his friends? I was just thinking about that the other day, where I went way back in my memory bank and thought of some licks that I wrote when I was like 12 or 13 years old. And I sat there and played some of them, and I was like, man, I can't believe I remember this.
Yeah, I can still play several songs that my brother and I wrote when we were just like 10 or 11. I could do a whole set of songs that we wrote.
Really?
Uh-huh.
What kind of stuff was it?
He wrote this whole song just bashing the PMRC, which was Tipper Gore. That was
Okay.
the thing at the Parents Music Resource Center and music censorship at the time. They're the ones that started putting those parental advisory labels on those back in the late 80s or whatever it was.
Right.
And that was all over the metal albums that we were buying, and all of the rap albums, the gangster rap stuff that was just starting to come out. And so he gave that a little piece of his mind in one of his songs about the PMRC. Just like that. Trying to be dark and stuff.
Yeah.
In other cases. But yeah, I can remember a lot of the songs that we wrote.
It's fun to go back down that rabbit hole sometimes and go
Yeah.
play some of that stuff and see what it brings up for you.
It goes back a ways. I started with viola in 4th grade and was studying that formally. So
Okay.
like the whole stringed instrument and learning songs thing, it goes back a ways. So.
Yeah.
But I do remember like really early on with guitar learning the Day Tripper lick.
Mhm.
That was one of the first licks that I learned. But as far as like early days, jamming out with the friends and garage band stuff, I always thought that the Black Sabbath standard tunes were the best, and a lot of
Right.
people used to seem to be on the same page with me about that one, because you could just rock out those like Paranoid,
Oh, yeah.
Iron Man, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Sweet Leaf.
Yeah, because they're pretty easy to learn and to play, and a lot of people know them.
And they're fun. They're a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to go wrong with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of what I was raised on. My dad was listening to still Black Sabbath and Motorhead and Led
Oh, yeah.
Zeppelin and Rush.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's a lot of what I listened to growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Sent me down a weird turn in the teenage years. All the heavy metal stuff and darker stuff that's out there. But
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot of good music in there.
there is.
There's plenty. My mom bought us a Kiss album really early on.
Yeah.
Kiss record. The first album that I ever bought for myself was Thriller. When it came out, I bought the double LP.
Cool.
I still got it. It's the only record that I've got in my house right now.
Really? Wow. The same one that you've had?
Yeah, the
over
same
years?
one. Somehow, I haven't been able to hang on to anything over the years, but somehow that record's come back. And I've got
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
But yeah, it was a must-have for a kid like me back then.
Yeah, I'm sure. How old were you when that came out?
I don't know, 8 or something
Yeah.
like that. I remember bringing a Michael Jackson magazine to school one time and bringing it out at recess and getting mobbed by little girls in like 4th grade or something. They were like ripping pages out of my magazine,
my
rip it
gosh.
away. So I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, I know. My mom just bought this for me at the grocery store last night.
Yeah, and now it's all ripped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Michael
oh,
Jackson's
Michael
too cool.
Yeah, they were nuts about him.
Yeah. So, I know you said before that you grew up in Illinois, in the Chicago area. You've moved around quite a bit since then. What place feels like home to you? Is there a place that when you go, you get that feeling and sense of being home? Is it back in Chicago, or is it here? Is it the Philippines? What does that look like for you?
Well, as long as I've been interested in self-realization and the science of the soul, I've been pretty, I guess, determined about the idea that you should feel at home wherever you are. So
okay.
I try to feel at home wherever I am. Not saying that I necessarily succeed. Right now, Asheville's home because I've got my wife and my daughters here, raising a family here, and we've been here since 2008. So it's definitely home, and this is where our house is and everything.
Yeah.
So in that most basic level, yeah, this is home. As far as sentimentally, I don't really do that too much. I've lived in a lot of places. When I used to move around a lot, my biggest challenge was every place I moved to, I'd want to stay there. It was funny. Like I've been to I don't know, hundreds of temples around the world, but every temple I ever visited, I'd be in my mind thinking, wonder what I could do, like for service if I stayed here. I wonder how I could serve it. I like this temple. I like the people here. I like everything about it. I wonder if I could live in one of those little rooms and help out in the kitchen. My mind would start turning like that.
Yeah.
I'm just like that. I like every place. Yeah, but I was born in Southern Illinois, and mostly raised in Champaign-Urbana, Central Illinois.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, went to a temple in Chicago when I was like 18, and that's when where I kind of became a monk. It wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned.
No, it wasn't.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was familiar with the philosophy. I had been studying the books and chanting, and I had been going to the Vedic Cultural Center, like a little preaching center in my hometown. But I mean, my plan was to move to the Philippines. I had this whole other plan that had nothing to do with becoming a monk or anything like that.
Yeah.
But my friend Bhakta Umesh, who was from Chicago, he said, "Why don't you come up to Chicago?" We're talking about like an hour and a half or whatever away from where we were. He's like, "Why don't you come up there? There's this festival, the Festival of Lord Nrsingadev. It's coming up. It's going to be a big festival in the temple." So I went up there with him, spent the night in the temple. Decided since I'm here spending the night, I might as well follow the full temple program, including the 2 hours of chanting and everything else, and waking up at 3 a.m. Let me give it a shot since I'm here. I found it to be very blissful, and it was
during your first experience.
Yes, my first time visiting a big temple, and I had a very strong feeling or resolve that this is what I want. I want to stay here. I don't want to look for anything else. This is what I want.
Yeah.
At least for right now. In my mind, because you got to remember I was 18 or 19 or whatever, and I was a dishwasher at an Italian restaurant in Illinois, and I was thinking I could just stay here and wash dishes for Krishna for the rest of my life. That would be so blissful, I'm like, and so that was my intention, but that's not how it went, because when I joined up with the movement, they had other ideas for me than washing dishes.
And what did that look like?
A lot of teaching.
Yeah.
A lot of teaching, preaching, educating, however you want to describe it. And that meant a lot of traveling for me. So for the 8 years that I was a monk, most of the time I was traveling.
Right.
In several different countries, which was cool because I had that desire to travel and see the world,
Right.
like a good adventurous young man. And I would say that all of my desires for travel were fulfilled in my early 20s, to the point that by the time I was 25 years old, I was like longing to settle down somewhere. I had traveled enough.
Right.
Felt like I had traveled enough.
Do you still feel like that way now?
Yeah.
That you've traveled enough and you can stay settled for a bit?
Yeah, I'm still adventurous. I'm still interested in exploring and seeing
Yeah.
different places. But as far as that initial youthful desire to go out and travel and explore and see the world, it was definitely fulfilled. I got to
Yeah.
live in several different countries, got to acclimate and get into speaking different languages, and just a lot of different types of travel. In India, I've traveled in every conveyance imaginable and been to some amazing places, amazing temples. If anybody knows what the Kumbh Mela is, it's the largest religious gathering of human beings on planet Earth. It happens, the big one happens once every 12 years.
Wow.
I've been to one of the big ones and one of the smaller Kumbh Melas.
How many people are at one of the big ones?
Well, the one that I was at, they said that there were 10 million people there,
Oh my gosh.
kind of coming and going over the course of the event.
Yeah.
It's a several-day event. It takes place at Allahabad, which is at the confluence, or Prayag, which is the confluence of the Ganga, Jamuna, and Saraswati River, where
Mhm.
those three come together. That's where that Mahakumbha Mela takes place. And it's cool because you see all different spiritual practitioners, religious groups. You see a lot of yogis who don't normally appear in public,
Okay.
but they would come for an event like that.
Right.
So you see a lot of people coming down out of the Himalayas, a lot of different teachers with their students and things like that. It's kind of fascinating.
And where do they host that event?
That's in the event is focused around the confluence of the river and bathing in the confluence of the river.
Okay.
There's a story behind it, but basically you attain liberation by bathing in the confluence of the river at that particular time frame.
Okay. Got it.
And so people come from all over just to take a dip in the water at that time. Where they stay is,
Yeah. Who
that's
knows?
where it gets a little bit complicated.
Right.
I wasn't even supposed to go. We were actually on a train from one city to another, and we stopped at that train stop, and I looked out the window and put two and two together. I woke up my traveling companion, and I was like, "Hey, it's Kumbh Mela, and we're in Prayag." I was like, "Let's get off the train." He didn't want to.
Yeah.
I was like, "Come!" And I convinced him, like, "Let's come on. We can get back on in a few days and,
Yeah.
and continue on our way. Let's get off the train. Come on." So we did. I'm glad we did.
How long did you end up staying for?
A few days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of people, and I had to physically fight to get back on the train. Probably at that. I mean, I didn't punch anybody, but I had somebody trying to use my backpack to climb on, which would have meant that I would have lost it. So I had to
Right.
get
Pull
in
him
this
off.
tug of war, like
Yeah.
wrestling match with this guy. 'Cause it's like that. It gets like that in India sometimes. You
Mhm.
have to shove and wrestle a little bit to get where you need to get to.
Yeah.
It's a different system over there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like, please excuse me, sorry, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's just you just
Wrestling match.
you make a beeline for where you need to go and you just plow through.
Right. Oh man, that could be tough to experience for the first time if you're not used to that.
It was tricky for me. I reacted. You got to remember, I was a monk. I was wearing saffron robe, shaved head, everything. So by all standards, the appearance of a holy man, and should have the conduct of one as well.
Right.
But I had a couple times. Well, hey, what could I do? And like that was one time I was at this festival, and there was like 4 or 5 guys that were together. Like a little gang.
Right.
And they walked by me, and one of the dudes shouldered me, like shoved me, and I reacted like you would. In Illinois, if
Right.
5 guys were walking by you and one of them shouldered you and shoved you, and they were so confused. They were looking at me like, "What is your problem?" What you like? So they didn't mean anything by it. Is all I'm trying to say.
Right.
It's a cultural difference.
Yeah. Out of all the places that you've been able to live, do you have one that you I don't want to say is your favorite, because I know you said you can find something to love about anywhere that you are and make home essentially wherever you are. But is there a particular place that you'd like to go back to, or one that really has a special connection with you?
I'm not longing for anything.
Right.
This is a good day, right here,
Yeah.
and that's what we've got. So I'm not longing to go back to anywhere. I don't have any plans to really travel back to any of the places that I've been before. Got lots of family in the Philippines, lots of people that we love in the Philippines. So maybe go back there one day, but no plans to. One thing I'd really like to do, and this is the only travel plan that I've really got in my mind. It's all with music. That's
Yeah.
one of my objectives with music is to be regularly or constantly in demand to perform in other countries
Yeah.
on some level, in European countries or maybe Asian countries, or you could be anywhere, South American countries, any country where they'd be willing to host me to come and play my guitar for a couple weeks at
Yeah.
a couple different locations. So I've got to put that together at some point. But maybe somebody out there can help me with that.
Yeah. Let's throw it out there to the universe and
Well,
see
yes.
if there's anybody out there that can help out with that. But I think that would be a really neat thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Would your plan be to go and play some countries that maybe you've already lived, or do you want to go see new places?
Yeah, I'd like to see some new places.
Yeah.
To see some new places. I'd like to travel and visit some places, but I just don't travel like I
Right.
used to.
For sure.
Uh,
So something we were talking about a little bit before when we first got into the studio was the fact that you have shied away from busking a little bit in the past couple years. So for anybody listening who doesn't know, busking essentially the act of performing on the street. It's something that's not legal everywhere. It is legal here in Asheville, and you can catch people doing that downtown. A lot of people may have known you as a busker or a performer earlier in your career, and it's something that you've stayed away from, and I think redefined yourself as a performer or a gig artist. Can you talk a little bit about what that decision was and your relationship with busking now?
yeah, I didn't shy away from it. I just stopped going out there.
Yeah.
I stopped going out there as a regular practice and a means of coming up with money, which
Yeah.
I was doing in the beginning. It wasn't so much about the money, but it was really using it as a stepping stone to get the attention of venues that would invite me inside.
Yeah.
And that's obviously why a lot of people go out there and play, because they're hoping they're going to get recognized by someone and picked up, maybe invited inside to play. So once that started happening, and then I had a few places that were inviting me inside, and I started to look like a legitimate musician. Not that street musicians are not, but I mean,
Sure.
people look at you differently when you're playing out there. At least for me, they did. That's why I started like trying to dress sharp and
Mhm.
as nice as I could from the beginning, just to try to make it clear that I'm out here because I got some music that I want to share.
Yeah.
I'm not out here because I need some sympathy. But
Right.
a lot of people, they see a busker and they just kind of assume that you don't have anywhere else to play, or that nobody else wants to hear your music. Like you should be on a stage, not sitting here on the corner.
Right.
Well, maybe I just felt like coming playing some music on the corner today.
Yeah.
And if I go out again, it'll be just completely like that, spontaneously, or just kind of like because I want to go out and play and do something. But here's the thing, like I play on the street, because like I play at Carmel's. I play there every Wednesday night through most of the year, and that's an indoor-outdoor gig because they have that corner there. So I'm playing on the corner, so a lot of people still see me playing there every week, or see me playing at Sunny Point Cafe, and it looks like I'm busking. I don't know if technically that's busking, because I'm street performing,
Right.
but I'm also hired by the venue.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Slight distinction, but yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it's technically busking probably.
But as far as like busking in Asheville, it's awesome, and I highly encourage anybody. I mean, it's getting a little crowded out there,
Yeah.
but you can still find a spot, and you can still find your audience. So anybody that, for me, it was perfect. I had an idea. I wonder if anybody would be into this, if anybody would want to hear this. When I first started going out, I was almost hiding, like trying to find
Yeah.
little spots and stuff where I could sit, where I thought not many people would see me.
Yeah.
But then I got lots of good encouragement from the beginning. People saying, "You should go over there. You should take that spot. Come on," that kind of stuff. So I just started rolling with it.
Yeah.
It's worked. It worked out well for me, busking, as far as being able to get hired into to playing other gigs. It worked out well. I got other gigs just right off the street like that.
Yeah, I think it can be a really good stepping stone for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, for getting recognized or for just kind of spontaneously capturing that crowd in the moment. It can be a really interesting thing when you're just there with your guitar and all of a sudden there are 20 or 30 people standing there watching you because they want to be there.
Right.
Do you think you could share a piece with us?
I sure
Is that
can.
a smooth enough segue
It's
into...
smooth enough for me.
Cool. I'd love to hear something.
Yeah.
What is it that you're going to play for us?
This is a piece that I wrote called Treetops. It's going to go on my next album.
Cool.
The one that'll come out in 2020.
Sounds great. All right.
All right.
That was awesome,
Oh,
man.
you like that?
I like that a lot.
Cool.
That was called Treetops.
That's right.
That is cool, man.
Yeah.
Really a nice combination of this just bluesy and almost neo soul kind of feel that you have going on with a lot of your jazz scales, and just really nice combination. I really like the fusion that you have going on
Oh,
there.
thanks. That's cool. I appreciate it. Yeah, I love that piece.
Yeah.
I love playing it. It's my favorite thing to play right now. I was a little nervous there at the beginning, but yeah,
Yeah,
what I'm really vibing on right now.
that's really cool. When did you come up with that one?
About a month ago.
Cool.
I've got another one that's it's more recent than that.
Really?
Yeah, that I'm working on right now on the, in the studio. But this one's like ready to go. I gotta just pretty much gotta record the main guitar part, and it's ready to put it on a record or whatever.
Nice.
Kind of already know what I want to do with it, which is like that.
Do you have a thought for your next record? Because I know you have a record on Spotify. You did that with Bobby Sachs, right?
Yeah.
Similar kind of feel for the next album, or what do you think?
It'll be. I mean, I'm progressing, evolving, and so hopefully you'll see some growth and improvement in the overall quality and expression, and it's a little bit. I mean, some of the songs are, I guess, the same style, like kind of what I'm playing right now.
Yeah.
That the main 4 songs that I'm thinking of as the core are similar to that in
Cool.
vibe, similar to what I just played.
Yeah.
But I won't have a sax player on it or anything like that. I'm gonna do this next album all by myself.
Nice. I like that.
I like it.
Do you have a studio that you're thinking about working with, or?
Well, I have
A place
my
that you-
studio at home,
Okay, perfect.
and I like working at home. I'm
Yeah.
definitely open to working with other people.
Uh-huh.
So if anybody wants to talk about collaborations or any other approach at recording, that's cool too. But otherwise, I've got plenty of work to do
Yeah,
right there at my own house.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. What do you do for drums and backing instruments and stuff like that? Do you have a drum machine, or do you?
I have an electronic drum kit,
Yeah.
and so I'm recording a lot of my drums with that. The one.
Cool.
So I will use samples if I find one that I like, but I like to record my own drums. I might hire a drummer for this album. Not
That'd be
sure
really
what
cool.
I'm gonna do, but I'm
Nice.
thinking about that, trying it out for a couple songs.
Yeah.
And I'm also on an album that an artist friend of mine has made in England that should be coming out. It's being released in London by February or March
Okay.
in 2020. So I should be on that as well. I'll be on a couple albums here
That's awesome.
in 2020.
Cool. So it sounds like you have a lot planned for 2020. Anything coming up locally, show wise, or anything else that you like to promote or shout out?
Well, I can go just let you know the remaining dates that I've got for the year. It's
Yeah, please do.
Just a few. Tomorrow night, which is the 18th, I'm at Carmel's Kitchen and Bar, which I mentioned that earlier. That's
Yep.
at the Grove Arcade. I'm actually there every Wednesday night. It's an indoor-outdoor year-round thing, except for the month of February and a little before and after. They
Okay.
got to shut down the seating area.
Right.
But anyway, I'm there tomorrow, and generally every Wednesday. And then on the 20th, I'm at Rustic Grape Wine Bar in downtown Asheville.
That's a good spot.
Yeah, I've played there a couple times. Excited
Cool.
to go back. That's 7 to 9 this Friday on the 20th. So come out and see me there. If you're listening, 24th, I'm at the Library Lounge at the Inn on Biltmore
Oh,
Estate.
nice.
That's Monday, and that's a 3 to 5. So it's
Okay.
like the Monday before Christmas.
Yep.
I do that. And then I've got a couple shows at Whistle Hot Brewing Company in Fairview, which I play there on average about 3 times a month.
Oh,
So I've
nice.
got one on the 26th and one on the 28th there. But that's an awesome spot in Fairview.
I haven't been out there yet.
Yeah, it's a brewery.
Cool.
And their tasting room is a bright red caboose
Oh,
on
nice.
train tracks, and they've also got a box car out there. And during the cold temperatures, I play in the box car. In
Uh-huh.
the warm time, we play out on the deck.
Oh, cool.
Yep, it's great.
Neat, man.
So that's what I got for this year, and next year, just more shows, recording, putting out more music, and just playing. I'm all about the live performance and playing. So I just try
Right.
to fill up my calendar with live performances. So
Yeah.
that's what I do, as many as I can.
That's awesome. It could be a little bit tougher maybe this time of the year, I'm imagining,
Mm-hmm.
as things maybe slow down a little bit for the winter.
Right.
Um,
The last 3 winters, I've produced albums.
okay.
So that's kind of what I'm expecting to do. But I'm always fighting, trying to fill up the calendar as much as I can
Definitely.
for January, February, and March. So
Yep.
if anybody has anything, give me a shout, because I was trying to fill up that calendar.
Definitely.
And in the summertime, it was pretty full for me the
Yeah.
last year. Um,
Yeah, and Adi, you're used to playing for pretty long sets, right? I mean, 2, 3 hours sometimes.
yeah, I get booked for 2 hour shows, 3 hour shows, and 4 hour shows.
Yep.
I'm cool with all of them. I do think 2 hours is the best,
Yeah.
because you're not trying to stretch it out
Right.
for any reason, and it's nice just from an artist point of view,
Definitely.
the way I look at it. But I can understand why if you have people dining in your establishment, you would want to have nice music for 3 or 4 hours. So I
Yeah.
try to provide that.
Sure thing. Cool, man. Is there another piece that you'd like to share with us before you go,
I
or
can do a little blues piece for you.
that'd be really cool? Yeah, I'd like that a lot. So again, for those listening, this is Adi the Monk. You can check him out on Instagram at Adi_the_monk. Check out his website at adithemonk.com.
Right. Yeah, and I've always got all my show schedules on there too. If you want to come out and catch a live show, that it's always on my website, Instagram, and Facebook pages.
Cool. Well, I'll definitely be coming to check out a show soon.
Oh yeah,
For
I'd
sure.
love to see you out there.
Yeah, man. Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing.
All right.
That was Adi the Monk again. Thank you for joining, everybody. That's about all the time that we have for today. But again, this was Breathing Room, episode 5. Thanks for joining, and Adi, thanks for joining me today, man.
All right.
Really
It was great
appreciate
being
it.
here. Thank you.
Yeah. Until next time, and don't forget to breathe.